Here we are live, folks. This is Mike Kegley with Kedrick Prince. Boy, folks, this is just one of those days. Illinois gets a ninth victory in a game that was up and down and just darn near crazy. But the bottom line is when it counted in the second half, they stepped up and shut the door on Northwestern. Maybe not as solidly as we'd like. Didn't shut it in their face. Maybe they said, you want to get out of the way and nicely shut it. But nonetheless, Illinois 9-3 for the first time since 2007, kid.
It's nice to see. You're right, Mike. It wasn't like we wanted it to be. It wasn't, nails and your hair done and, your white beater T-shirt on, flexing your muscles kind of performance. But a win is a win. That's the way you have to look at it. I'm not going to be overly, dramatic. I guess there was only one negative, giving up 28 points to them. That's the only negative. I mean, they made some adjustments and, they went to prevent defense or whatever and went to a zone. But the bottom line is they have 9 wins. I can also say I know Brett Bielema has learned over the years when he was at Wisconsin, he would continue to throw the ball, run the score up. This is a new man. He's an older guy who's wise. He knew the game was going to be won. They just ran the ball. They could have threw the ball and probably scored 2 more touchdowns. So respect to him. The end of the day, it's a win. Just like we go back to that Purdue game when they won by 1 or 2 points, it's still a win. So it wasn't pretty. They got the W. They're 9-3. A lot of good things happen, records, with Pat Bryan and Lowry. They just looked really, really, really good, just rushing the football all around. I mean, Aiden Lowry, 172 yards. 14 yards on an average, which was just nice to see. So it's a win. They're 9-3. I'm sure we're going to talk about the other games that went on today, but right now this is a time to celebrate the trophy. The Landon Lincoln Trophy is back in Champaign, where I personally think it belongs, and it should stay there for a while as long as Bielema was the coach there.
Yeah, I tell you what, this was a excellent game, and you have to be looking at what's going on around the Big Ten. You saw Penn State fumbling and Maryland scoring a touchdown right away. 7-0 Maryland over Penn State. Now Penn State ran a kickoff back. They're already in scoring position. You've got snow coming down for the Rutgers-Michigan game, snow coming down for Arkansas and Missouri. This is shaping up into a nightmare for the SEC, where they might have to play a first-round game in Columbus, Ohio, or in South Bend, Indiana, in the cold. But let's go back. Aiden Lowry, okay, Gibson City, little tiny Gibson City. It's great to see contributions. 12 rushing attempts for 172 yards, 3 touchdowns, a long of 64, averaging 14.3 a carry. I'm telling you right now, Ked, this reminded me of a long time ago, Marcus Dupree, his freshman year in the bowl game against Arizona State. It might have been the first Fiesta Bowl, and Marcus had not been a part of the team for like 3 weeks. He shows up the day before the game, and Switzer lets him play, and so he had to take plays off, and he only got like 15, 16 carries and ran for 240 yards. So this Aiden Lowry, holy cow, what a game. Wasn't that great to see him have that success out there against the nerds?
Everybody's calling them the nerds. I've received a lot of text messages calling them that. Well, you know what was huge about that? I remember when Illinois recruited him, and it was such a big deal because he's from like a small little town where you can blink your eye, you'll miss it. But Bielema, they saw talent in him, and I remember he signed and wanting to stay home and why it was important to stay home. So he really, really, showed out today. The one thing I will say that I liked about him, now I don't know if it was the schemes, but I like the fact that he didn't just try to run up the middle. He found holes, and he was quick enough and shifty enough to be able to go left and right. And maybe the other backs should probably, look at that and think, hey, you know what? Maybe this is what we should be doing all the time, because he was impressive today. It was good to see him do that. It was an Illinois kid who had a great day. kudos to Brandon Lloyd, a former Illinois wide receiver, one of the best of all times, was there today. To watch Pat Bryant tie his record along with David Williams. I thought that was special as well. You don't see a lot of former players travel anywhere, but it was nice to see Brandon up in Northwestern today. So it was a good performance overall. I was kind of nervous when Luke got hit and he went down. I thought, man, this could be really, really bad. But, he's a tough kid. He's been hit a few times. So now my thing is everybody's going to be excited. Who are you going to play in the bowl game? And, we've always wanted to play the SEC schools. So, Illinois fans, you're going to get your wish. Who that could be, I don't know. But I'm really curious to see how the styles contrast and how good Barry Lunny could be if you give him a month to prepare for somebody.
Yeah, this is going to be excited. We're seeing comments come in, obviously, on the YouTube. And I will say that I think there was a couple times that Luke was back looking for Bryant, just couldn't get the ball to him. So I'm not certain that it was for lack of trying, but it certainly would have been nice to see one more. And we will see how that develops. The bowl games tend to be a little bit different for guys with an NFL career. I will say I thought that the defense played a little bit better in the second half, and then towards the end it got a little –
I just think they're trying to bend and not break it. You're right. Yeah. When you look at it, Mike, they made some adjustments. For me, the most frustrating thing, Aaron Henry has gotten better. Anybody, there was a statistic that they gave during the game where they give up 20 points a game, something like that. That's the top 40 in the country. That's pretty darn good. It really is. If there was one thing I want to see different with this defense, I like the man coverage. I like when they call it. I'll just somehow find a way to get off the field on third downs more. I just think the defense is on the field a little bit longer. When you can find ways to draw up schemes to get your defense off the field, I think that would just be great because they are on there a lot longer. And whatever that's going to be, something that they have to figure out, in my personal opinion, is going to be key moving forward. He's not going anywhere. I know some people are mad at the defense, but again, down the stretch, I just think they knew the game was over. They were not trying to get hurt and get injured because you don't want to do that because Seth Coleman got hurt, on the last few plays at Rutgers, and I saw the play when it happened. He just ran and fell on his own shoulder. So trying to avoid injuries, I'm sure that has something to do with it as well as why the score is, is what it is.
Yeah, and I look at it as this was a heck of a game, and I do think that Illinois they won the game that you have to win. Let's look around at what happened in college football in the last week or so with all of the crazy losses that we are seeing out there. Georgia really got helped out by some egregious flags not being thrown on them, and you had some. You had craziness last week with Alabama losing and Ole Miss losing. I mean, Illinois, it would have been very easy to go out and find a way to choke this game and end up at 8-4. This team was so close. If Illinois had won one more, Illinois would have potentially been in that conversation at 10-2 for the CFP. I'm not saying they would make it in. But with their number of victories over teams that were ranked at the time they played, they would have had that opportunity. And certainly next year when Coach B is trying to talk to guys about intensity, they will remember what happens when you lose it for one game. And that's on Illinois for not playing
right.
as intensely and effectively as they could have against Minnesota. And that's why I have little sympathy for the 3 lost teams in the SEC. I don't care how great your conference is. Don't lose to a 6-5 Oklahoma team that's probably the worst Oklahoma team in the last 25 years. And Alabama,
We could say the same thing about Michigan because we know Ohio State. That's one of the worst Michigan teams in recent memory, and they got beat at home today. Another team you can talk about where – the tide is changing. Wisconsin, they honestly, They don't have 6 wins, and that's the first time in 22, 23 years, I believe, that they're not going to a bowl game. So, all the negative things that we want to talk about, take a step back and look what happened today. You're Ohio State, and who you are, and then you lose at home. You only score 10 points to Michigan. Here Illinois is sitting at 9-3. In the Minnesota game, they just, whatever reason it happened. But if they pull that out, they're 10-2 as well. So, and I mean, I know Brett Bielema was not going to win Coach of the Year in the Big Ten. It's too bad Indiana had a season the way they did, because I think he deserves it. Illinois is a respectable team now. You have to play Illinois, when you put the uniform on, both trophies, they're back where they belong. I just really, really like to see them continue to recruit, get better. And the transfer portal, open up your pocketbooks, whatever whatever needs to happen, keep this team going moving forward. I've said on a number of these shows, Mike, the reason Illinois is competitive is because of the NIL. And they're not on the level of Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. We've talked about that. But now they don't have to go out and just say, I have to somehow try to convince a kid who's going to go to Oregon or to Georgia to believe in my program. You know what? You can do that, but then if you have a couple of dollars that you can give a kid legally, it makes it more attractive. So it's a great time, for the entire athletic program, not just the football program. They're all competitive and they're all doing really, really well. And so I'm really curious to see how this ball thing is going to play out.
Yeah, I do think, look, bottom line is Illinois is really just a few players away from breaking through. And Brett Bielema is a good enough coach, and he has a good enough staff that he doesn't need $20 million to make a run at a CFP. Now, I'm sure he'd love $20 million to make a run at the CFP, but this guy can coach well enough that he doesn't need the money that a Ryan Day needs to fall short. Now, as you look at this game, of course, we got to see Pat Bryant just force a will touchdown. Zachary Franklin with a couple really good catches. I don't know that they'll play in the bowl game. We'll have to see. But, boy, that was a fun season with those two wide receivers. Almost took me back to the Mike Martin, David Williams days.
Mike, it was a special season for both guys. I mean, Bryant had 70 yards today. Franklin had 54 yards today. Dixon, the freshman, had 38 yards. I mean, for the teams to tell you that doesn't adjust, that didn't happen before. His teams always ran the ball. You always had a 150-yard rusher. Now it's kind of with offensive coordinator Barry Lunny Jr., it's kind of 50-50, but this running attack is not the strength of this team. And I respect the fact that they made adjustments, throwing the ball a little bit more, because you had two of the best receivers in the country on your side.
Yes, and look, I think there's an opportunity with what they have coming back. The wide receivers, they may not be that level, but you got some talent that's in that room, with Dixon sitting there, and you've obviously, Elzy has been dinged up here at the end of the season, but that's some talent coming back. And then with the portal, you have opportunity to do more as well. So I think there's a lot coming back. This team is good. One of the things that comes down is uptick in high school recruiting. Ked, maybe you can talk a little bit, but to me, it looks like each year there's been a little bit of an uptick. And I think we're starting to see some things, especially, with guys like Grant Bierman flipping over to the Illini to add to the class.
Well, Greg, that's a great question. And here's what I'm going to say to you. With Bierman, who was a legitimate 4-star recruit who originally committed to Purdue, Illinois was able to flip him. And I can tell you, I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't bet my house on it. I may bet one of my trucks that I think there's a good chance that they're going to flip some kids this week and they're going to get some commitments this week. There's a bunch of junior college kids out there that are just in love, and that's what we love with the program. They like what they're selling. Greg, again, awesome question, because I just think the recruiting is huge. And one of the things I've said before as well, the guys who recruit, they all have different jobs, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, what have you. But the big man himself, I don't mean this, and a big man, I mean like the head cheese and Brett Bielema. That's what I meant by that. So don't run with this, anybody. What I meant by that was he is involved in all these recruits. He's making the phone calls. He's going to see these kids. He's the one closing the deal. He is a closer. So it is the recruiting in high school is picked up. I know that, I think the transfer portal is going to be a little bit nicer and leaner to Illinois, because now the fans and boosters can see you have a winning product on the field. Can you imagine? I don't know who they're going to play in the bowl game, but if it's one of the greatest SEC teams and then they win, why would you not invest in that? They are using every tool. I can tell you right now, Brett Bielema is so smart where after a game, he'll throw little teasers to us. Well, I got to talk to this recruit. This was a big win. I got to talk to this kid. And because kids didn't look at Illinois before. They never looked at that. So now kids are looking at Illinois, and it is a good place to win. It's got a great fan base. I mean, I don't say that because I'm looking for followers. I'm 109 years old. I'm past that stage of my life. I'm saying this. Illinois has one of the most passionate fan bases. You could go on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and if somebody leaves Illinois out for anything nationally where they know the fans know they should be there, I can guarantee it 99% of the time I'll go in that thread and Illinois fans going to be there speaking up for their program because they know that they deserve to be there. Some guy had a top 25 basketball program out yesterday, didn't have Illinois in it, but had a UConn still in it. So, but he got called out, and then the kid, then the kid backed off. My where I'm going with this is they can sell the program. They have great facilities. You're in the Big Ten. No matter what part of the country you're in, your family is going to be able to see you play, whether it be on Peacock, whether it be on FS1, Big Ten Network. You will have an opportunity to be seen. Every conference can't say that. Every school can't say that. So I like where they're going with it from a recruiting standpoint. Again, there should be some kids flipping this week. There should be some junior college kids committing this week, I think. One I talked to, and if you want to know who that is, subscribe to Illini Guys. One I talked to last week, I'm surprised if it doesn't happen today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I do think that you're going to see some stuff. I'm not certain what you mean on Trimble's going to be a problem, other than the fact that he's going to be a guy who presses for playing time, so that's going to be a positive. And hopefully he's got his teammate that maybe he can influence as well at tight end there. I will tell you this is a game that I think in the end, it really, to me, demonstrates where this program has come since Brett Bielema got here, because basically Illinois took on a Northwestern team that, as we all know, has won, 7 of the last 9 games against Illinois, and they have not had the best roster for 7 of those 9 years. And in the past, Illinois might have come out and played a lukewarm game, and they would have ended up losing to a Northwestern, and then we would be grousing as Illinois fans. This time I'm admitting Illinois didn't play the greatest game they had, yet at the same time they win the game by 10 points, and it really wasn't very close after Aiden Lowry got that what was it, his second touchdown, maybe his third. It was just at that point the game was essentially over, and then it was just making sure nobody got killed between now and the end of the game. So that's something that Illinois would not have been able to pull off pre-Brett Bielema. And I think that's probably the difference where this team is right now.
Mike, you hit it on the head, because this team, years before he got there, would have found a way to lose, number one. Something would have happened. The Rutgers game, that wouldn't have happened. Yeah. This team is confident. They have I mean, what's weird, I remember when I was younger, when I first got in this business, I could never understand why Illinois couldn't throw the ball down the field, why guys couldn't catch it. You saw all kind of mistakes. I don't see that anymore. I think now I expect them to do these things. And that's when you know things are going well, when you expect your team to do well, because every team's going to make mistakes. You're not going to win every game. And I know this is an Illinois broadcast, but can you imagine right now, take your orange glasses off and your orange Illini sweater or blue Illini sweater. Can you imagine being an Ohio State fan right now? Can you imagine? Most of you saw the fiasco after the game, the fighting, the tearing of the flag. You talk about being frustrated, and here Illinois fans are. You got 9 wins, and you're going to go to a bowl game. You didn't choke. Yes, you lost a game you probably shouldn't have at home against Minnesota, but it happens. I mean, but looking at the big picture, you have to be excited. One of our people who are listening just made a comment. He's right. You're happy for the boys. You're happy for the team. I'm happy for Brett Bielema. He's an Illinois guy who believes in this program. I can tell you, he is in for the long haul. As long as he continues to win, I think they're going to have to run him out of town. I don't think there's going to be enough money to buy him out because he is happy. He is building a program. I think he learned at Arkansas some things. Don't take things for granted, and he's working his tail off to put a winning product on the field for the Illini.
Yeah, and comparing to Ohio State, folks, this is why, look, I love the Buckeyes, but I don't feel sorry for them. I did this back when Illinois started off 4-0. Illinois had 3 seasons since 1951 that they started off 4-0. Ohio State's had 33 seasons with losing records since 1951. Illinois had 46 of them, and there they all are. Yikes. Ohio State's had 4 seasons with less than 3 wins. They've never had it. The worst they've ever had, I believe, one of the worst seasons record-wise is 6-7. With Luke Fickell, believe it or not, in the interim year. And then Illinois has had 15 seasons with less than 3 wins since 1951. So I'm not shedding any tears for the Buckeyes. You handed off the keys to Ryan Day, and you know what? Fine coach. But the bottom line is what in his resume tells you that he knows how to right the ship. He's going to have to win the national title this year. He's got $20 million NIL budget. If he doesn't win it, think if you had Brett Bielema, I'm sorry, but if Brett Bielema was the head coach of Ohio State right now, they might have 1 loss. They probably wouldn't have any. And that team wouldn't get out hit by the physical teams whenever they ran into them.
I agree with you. Maybe Ohio State will hire khaki pants back from the Chargers, man, and they bring Harbaugh to Columbus, Ohio. I mean, wouldn't that be a treat? You know what? I don't feel sorry for them. I really don't. I wish it wasn't Michigan because one of my best friends is a Michigan fan, and I won't even pick up my phone anymore because I'm sick of reading the text from him. But I did have to remind him one of those 5 losses on the record came from the people in orange and blue. So, but anyway, Mike, you're right. The success that they're having, Illinois football has been up and down for years. I just want to see it be good for a few years. Go on a run where every year, when the predictions come out, you're not going to put Illinois in the Big Ten 16, 17, 18th anymore. You want to be able to be in that top 8 or 9, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some years you're going to have some lean years. You're going to surprise people. When you have those years, a lean year for me, what I want now is what Michigan is, 7-5. That's the worst case scenario. Get to a bowl game every year and win 7 games.
Yeah, that would be nice. And I think obviously, the bowls are different than they used to be. You got guys sitting out, you have the CFP that's going to garner most of the attention. But trust us, folks, when you get the 3 extra weeks of practice, if you think about it, when Illinois was going on its 10 years of 10-year, losing streak, which Brett Bielema's first year was the last year that Illinois had that, that 10-year losing record streak. That was those teams then compared to if you went to Ohio State and you played at Ohio State for 5 seasons, you would have an additional 15 weeks of practice as a fifth-year senior that an Illinois player would not have gotten because they went to the bowls every year. And those 15 extra practices, it's like getting an extra season for all those Ohio State players. You don't need teams that have more talent than you getting extra practice time. Just that extra 3 weeks is like gold. And you look at how Brett Bielema and this team are built, you're going to see that they know how to utilize those 3 weeks for the development of the team in the long run. And I think that's a big thing. Now, one thing we talked about a little earlier, Jamal, is there's going to be more flips to the Illini. Kedrick is one of the guys who's on the inside. You want to follow IlliniGuys.com. This is a great time to join. You can join us with the Black Friday special and get the free Illini Guys tumbler, and then you'll get access to the message board where Ked will give hints and tips about what is going to happen. Now, one of the things you guys have to know is we don't step on a kid's toe. We are not going to sit there and try to announce it before the kid does so that we can get a headline, because these kids, they only have one or two times that they get recruited like this. We don't want to take the steam out of it, take the fun out of it for them. But if you go onto our message boards, we're not going to put it in the headlines, but there may be you can expect this or you can expect that. That's part of being an Illini Guys subscriber, and we'd love to have more people here. Again, go to IlliniGuys.com. You can look at the Black Friday deal. It's right up on top of our board. This would be a great week to start your subscription. It is a fantastic, fantastic deal, and only 27 cents a day. Can't really complain about that. And the pricing's good. We haven't raised it at all since then. Kat, any other commitment hints?
Well, like I told you, there's a junior college kid from Iowa that I talked to last week, and one of the things he left off with me, again, I want people to come join us, but he talked to me and basically said that if things go well, he would really like to lock up and to be with Illinois. He may mention too, and I'm not going to throw his name out there yet, one of the things he talked about was, Illinois is not afraid to go out to recruit junior college kids. So many people focus on high school and the transfer portal. They're forgetting a lot about the kids in junior college. And this is another angle that the Illinois coaches are taking, because what's nice is if you have a mixture of junior college, high school, and transfer portal kids, the good thing about the junior college kids is, especially if they're players like that, they're bigger and they're able to come in to play right away, and they're not all going to demand high NIL dollars. So the way they're going about it, I think, is really smart. I like what they're doing with that, with that route. But there's other kids out there that have committed to schools that Illinois is trying to flip, and you're going to see them. And you're going to start seeing some of these names pop up, at some point in time here real soon. And it's going to be really, really nice to hear, one of the guys' name is Cam Thomas from Westchester, Ohio. If you know anything about Westchester, Ohio, Illinois fans should in recent days, Cam Thomas, who just named his top 6 schools, which put it in perspective. His top 6 schools were Oregon, West Virginia, Indiana, Michigan, Kentucky, and Illinois. So, this is a kid, in my personal opinion, I know Illinois, they're laying out the red carpet for him. He's another, great linebacker, and Illinois would love to be able to get him, wrapped up as well. So in years past, they wouldn't have kids like that. They didn't have an opportunity to get those kids. They would get offers, maybe the kid would visit, but you knew darn well that kid was never going to, set foot on campus in Illinois.
Yeah, the times have changed, and I know I don't know. Jeff talks about that last touchdown against Indiana, and obviously there's no connective between two different games. But yes, sometimes karma can be a bear, and that's just the way it goes. And again, I have been probably, Ked, I've been the harshest critic of Ryan Day, not because of him as a person. I think he seems to be a fine, upstanding individual. But the fact of the matter is when you hire somebody to run the biggest program in college football and you pay him the money, where is the resume of experience that you need when the chips are down? When they got Urban Meyer, and let's face it, Urban at times has some questionable personal history, but I'm talking about him as a football coach. When Ohio State handled him, he had built a program at Bowling Green that was never any good until he got there. Then he went to Utah and rebuilt a program, made it bigger than it had ever been. Then he went to Florida and won 2 national titles. So when he came to Ohio State, he knew what it took to win national titles. He also knew what happened when you get bucked off the horse. He knew how to get back on and get control again. And Ryan Day doesn't have that resume. I, for the life of me, don't know why you would get a coach who hasn't done that. The only exception that I would make that to is a coach like Kirby Smart, who sat at the right hand of Nick Saban for a decade as Nick Saban groomed him to be the next big thing. So certainly when Georgia hired Kirby, to me, that was a totally different set of circumstances. But for the most part, if I was looking for a coach, I want somebody who's been there and done that for a program the size of Ohio State. And unfortunately, every time they've fought a physical team, they've lost to them. Michigan 4 times, Georgia once. And I'm not saying that again, Ohio State's always 1 or 2 plays from a national title. Right. That's what happens when you spend $20 million a year. But I don't know if they've got the guy who can cash in the chips. But I'll tell you one thing, his back's against the wall right now. And when it comes to this CFP tournament, he's going to want to do everything in his power to win it, because if he doesn't, I'm not certain that that loss to Michigan, coupled with not winning the title, coupled with $20 million payroll, might mean the end of him.
You know as well as I do. You look at a school like Illinois, Iowa, who don't have the budget that those schools have, they're saying stuff. They're upset. If you watch the game today and you watch the fiasco after the game, all the coaches on both sides were breaking up the fight, and they showed a camera angle of Day. He just stood there, and I thought he was crying at first, which he probably should be, because, losing to Michigan at home, I mean, you could see the frustration. He never moved. There is a lot of pressure on that man to win games. But you know what? He's making a lot of money. He has everything that you need. It's a football school. I don't care how good the basketball program is, or when you think of Ohio State, you think of football. And you know what, Mike? You know what I just thought about? Can you imagine if they have the Big Ten West this year? Who would be the champions? You know what I'm saying? Think about it. I mean, this would have been this.
Well, in Oregon.
Yeah. Huh?
Oregon.
Yeah. Well,
that would have thrown off our system.
But if they weren't in it, if it was the traditional, what we had without them getting in, it would have been nice. But anyway, point being here, I don't feel bad for him, like I said to you. I really don't. It's too bad, because he has a lot of money. The school has tons of money. They know that they're always going to have a chance to win. Like, they're going to have a chance to win because they're going to have some of the best players in the country all the time. So, as well as I do, nobody's going to feel sorry for Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan. You're just not going to.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, that's one of the things I think that's so important. So we're going to wrap up here at this time. We're going to have a later one, be looking out on X, etc., on YouTube, as Matt will be coming up after interviewing coaches and players after this game. Ted and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a taste of what we thought of the game. Plus, we're Big Ten guys as well. It's just hard not to mention the perspective. And I got to be truthful with folks. It feels like it's a little bit of a new world here as Brett Bielema is starting to elevate the Illini. And I feel like another good season of recruiting and some NIL transfer portal wins and this Illini team is in a place where they can start changing the long-term view of this program, which until Brett Bielema got here, it was a little bit like the island of misbegotten toys, just broken toys, and that's kind of what Illinois was, and he has changed that around. I did not think a 9-3 was possible this year. I thought that the things that were overcome, especially the defensive line and linebacker, the overall thinness in those groups, and then a few of the injuries that happened. If you would have told me Illinois' defense was going to be as good as they were for this season, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. So that's why I tangle with people who are on Twitter saying that they should fire Aaron Henry. When I look at what this defense did with the bodies that were on the team, not that they're bad players, but this is not Ohio State's defense. This isn't Michigan's defense, yet Illinois won 9 games with it. That is why Brett Bielema needs to get a little bit of a tip of the cap and a thank you, and that is kind of the approach we take. Ked, your final thought?
Mike, yes. And the thing is, they don't throw anybody under the bus. They're not stupid. They are motivators, they're teachers and educators, and it's about building kids up and building their self-esteem. You can clearly see the talent level is different. And not all areas, because Illinois is closing the gap. But when Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon, if you like Seth Coleman didn't play today. He didn't play today. At those schools, you replace him with another guy just like him. That's the difference between those schools. And, the guy who just made the comment on the screen here, Brett's a hell of a coach because he develops players. The guy was asking about recruiting. One of the things I've always said, and I don't get this in all the other sports, I get it a lot in Illinois football. They develop kids and put kids in the NFL, and that is attractive as hell to football recruits, high school and transfer portal kids. There's a kid on the roster right now. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to put his business out there. A kid, came to Illinois out of the transfer portal, and he starts for Illinois. He had an opportunity to go to another Power 5 school to make more money. He did not take that offer because he thought he had a chance to play at the next level under Brett Bielema and took a $150,000 pay cut, if you want to call it that. I don't want to use the word pay cut, but that's what it really is. He decided to come to Illinois because of Brett Bielema's success of putting guys in the NFL. That is a fact. And some people out there who are listening to this, I know darn well you know who I'm talking about. So having said that, that matters. And that's another selling point that Brett can use. So I will close with that.
Perfect. So, folks, thank you so much for listening. We will be on with Matt I'll be on with Matt in a few minutes. It'll probably be the next 30-ish minutes. We will go post-game to get Coach B's thoughts and the players' thoughts after the game. And then, of course, next week will be a little bit of a lighter week, although I am working on a couple guests to have on the Illini. But we, of course, will be back next Friday. So 6 days when you're looking at Illini starting up the season against Northwestern in basketball. And, folks, it's just a great, great time to be an Illini fan. And we certainly thank your support. Remember, if you go over, you want to be a part of IlliniGuys.com, go over there and go ahead and register. Take your 6-day trial. You'll like it. You'll be a fan. Give yourself a nice moniker. Get back into the message boards and start talking to other Illini fans and Ked and Brad, Larry, Matt, and myself. It is a ton of fun. And right now with football going into the bowl season, transfer portal, and then you've got basketball going into the season, and then after that's the transfer portal and recruiting. It is a fantastic time to be an Illini fan. Enhance your experience as much as you can with the Illini guys. We would greatly appreciate it. And until we hear you next, go Illini.